I don't know what to say about Brexit. I can't put it to words. An awful lot will happen over the next weeks and months, and we're anticipating, let's say, probably an election. So one of the things we wanted to get out of tonight is some thoughts about that event. And so some of our speakers are local BBCs who will discuss some of those things in anticipation of the event. We have questions, question papers. Hopefully you found them on your seats. If you can hand them into Connor. Where's Connor? There he is. Conveniently placed in the middle. And then we will filter them and try and read them and use those as the basis for the questions for the panel. So the way the evening's arranged is the first half, we will have two speakers. We have Julian, who's Remainer Now. So Remainer Now, you've probably heard of, it's an amazing organisation, very brave people who voted Leave and have since changed their mind. Won't say anymore. Andrew Donis will be here shortly. He's on the train that gets in at 7:15, so he'll be here in a minute. He will be here. And after the break, which will be at about 8:30, 8:15, 8:30, we'll have a panel of local politicians. Good. So, Jill, over to you.
Thank you very much. I'll assume, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. I'll assume you were clapping Tim then and not me, because I haven't done anything yet. So first of all, good evening, thank you very much for inviting me. I'm the only non-politician you'll see this evening, so I'm on your side really. And I spent the last couple of days trying to decide how I would actually start this evening. I thought initially I would start by saying, well, we live in interesting times, and actually, do we actually want to live in these interesting times? And if you're like me, I'd like things to be a lot less interesting than they are at the moment. And then I thought, well, no, that's a bit trite. I'll come up with the old Edmund Burke slogan. You all know it. All it takes for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. Well, that's not appropriate either, because for the last 3 years, good people have been doing a huge amount of stuff. I've no doubt an awful lot of you will be with me on the 19th, parading through London. I've done it 3 times so far, and an awful lot of other things besides. I know they say it's the largest queue for Waitrose in the country, but I think it makes a difference, and just occasionally, even the BBC might report it. So we do need to do something, and things are changing. What I thought I'd start with is, I don't know if any of you read the Independent online, but Peter Kellner had an article in there a couple of days ago where he was talking about the myths of Brexit. He said there were 4, I think there are 5. And the first one he said was that the number of people that you see on Vox Pop on the television saying, I just want to see Brexit done, it's just not true. What people actually want is to say, we want Brexit done, but we want it done right. And it's not just people like ourselves who think that, it's everybody, Leavers as well. People want it to be done right. Peter Kellner's organisation has polled people to find out whether or not that's true, and that's what they've come up with. The second thing which Peter Kellner said, and he's supposed to be an expert, is that people think, the myth is, people haven't changed their minds. Well, actually, an awful lot of people have changed their minds. At least, at a minimum of 5% of the population has changed its mind. That's a minimum. I'll talk about that again in a moment. And then we have the whole business about whether or not people would vote the same way. Well, and the whole demographic. I don't know if you're aware of it, but in each year, since the referendum, and that's what, 3 years and 3 months, 260,000 people, elderly people like me, have died who voted Leave. 260,000 per year. Per year. And better than that, better than that, there's 235,000 kids who are now 18 who would be expected to vote Remain. Now you put those, that's per year, you put those two figures together, you get 495,000 is the extra number of Remain voters that we would have per year. And it's 3 years. So that's 1.5 million extra Remain voters. Now, it won't have missed your attention that the majority at the last referendum was 1.3 million. So if nothing happened and everybody voted the same way, just on demographics alone, Remain would win. There's a thought. The other thought is that if 1.3 million was the Leave majority, you only need half of those, 600,000, to change, and Leave would lose. So anybody who thinks that people haven't changed their minds, it almost doesn't matter because the demographics alone will take Remain over the line. I wouldn't risk it. I think there's a lot of work to be done. And the fourth thing is that an awful lot of people on television say, no, we don't want a final say. Actually, Peter Kellner in The Independent said the work he's done has shown that the vast majority do want a final say, either a confirmatory vote, second referendum, or at worst, a general election. We're going to have a general election either way, but a confirmatory vote would be best of all. I think there's a fifth myth that's going around at the moment, and that's that Colleen and Rebecca isn't important. Well, it was on the front page of the Express, the Sun and the Star this morning, so it must be important, mustn't it? Now, there are hundreds of thousands of people, and it's the reason I'm here, who we believe voted Leave and now would vote Remain. 2.5 years ago, a chap called Andy was looking at Twitter and he noticed a number of people saying, I voted Leave, but I don't like what's happened in the last 3 or 4 or 5 months. So he started a Twitter account and he called it hashtag Remainer Now. We've now got 40,600 as of today supporters, followers on that website. I joined it, or I became a follower on that website very shortly after it was set up. And so we got 40,000. That's 40,000 people who are prepared, like I am, to admit I voted Leave and I made a mistake. And that's quite a difficult thing for a lot of people to say. A lot of people don't want to say it because within their own families it's going to cause a dispute. I know that when I voted Leave, I kept very quiet because my family, all of my family were Remainers, and I would have had such grief. I kept quiet about it. They know what I'm doing tonight, they know what I'm doing now, so, and I march with them now, but I do recognise that people have a difficulty in actually saying, I got it wrong. So Remainer Now, it's a grassroots movement. Tim actually called it an organisation. It's not an organisation, we don't have it. We have one person who is vaguely employed on more or less on expenses, who arranges things like meetings and get-togethers and what have you. And we have a wide variety of backgrounds. We've got people from every political party, including Conservatives, believe it or not. We've got people who never voted before but voted in the referendum. So we've got a wide range of people. We've also got people who didn't vote at all, who are now saying, I didn't vote, that was a mistake, and I'm a Remainer now. And I think probably what's happened in the last 3 years has caused a lot of people to think, actually, I should have voted. I thought Remain would win, so I didn't bother voting. I think they'll bother voting if we get another chance. And I think all of the people that we've got, the 40,000 we know about, plus a lot of others, everybody has a different journey which they travelled. It's impossible to say these are the reasons why people have changed their minds. But what we have done is we've done some research into why people who have now changed their minds, why they voted Leave. It's not necessarily the same as the far right, who just want to get out at any price. People who have changed their minds are people who maybe weren't sure one way or the other. And there are 3 reasons why people who have now changed their minds seem to have voted Leave in the first place. The first one is the campaigns themselves. I'm sure that you will agree, even if you don't want to, if you think about it, the Leave campaign was much slicker, it was much cleverer. We also know most of it was lies, but we also know that they were very good at coming up with 2 or 3 line quips. They came up with all the reasons why we should leave. They were very positive about it. And the Remain campaign was very negative. They were telling us what was going to happen, awful things that would happen when Brexit happened. They shouldn't have been doing that. They should have been telling us all the advantages of Remain, all the great things that the EU has done all around the country in different parts of the country. And I think particularly the Tory party have a lot to answer for not having done that. I'm not going to get into party politics as to whether or not different parties should have performed in different ways, but I think certainly, like it or not, the clever Cummings type campaign did put the Remain campaign into the shade. I've actually checked out quite a lot of the claims that we heard from the Leave campaign. It sort of shows why people who are perhaps not sure which way to go would have voted to leave. For instance, a free trade agreement that we'll have to do should be one of the easiest in human history. That was Liam Fox. Okay, well, you know, he was a minister, a fairly senior minister. You could sort of vaguely think he knew what he was talking about. I'm not sure you'd think that necessarily now. We will maintain free-flowing border at Dover. Well, that will come no surprise to you when I tell you that that was Failing Grayling who came up with that one. On the other hand, at least he knew that some traffic did go through Dover. And then Daniel Hannan is a Tory MEP, often on Newsnight. He said absolutely no one is talking about threatening our place in the single market. Well, you know, if there's a campaign going on and somebody at the EU, an MEP says that, you can be rest assured that he probably knows what he's talking about. Well, we did then, maybe. And finally, this is quite an interesting one. Who said, there will continue to be free trade and access to the single market? Boris Johnson. Maybe he's thinking it again now, we don't know, do we? So, that was the first thing. The campaigns themselves, I think, were I don't want to overstate it, but I do think that the Leave campaign was slicker, and I think the Brexit, the Remain campaign wasn't positive enough. The second reason that people voted Leave and maybe have changed their minds now, I can sum up with 3 letters: NHS. Yeah. The NHS has a particular place in the psyche of in the British psyche, doesn't it? I think probably people in all parties, all generations, feel that the NHS is a particularly special organisation. It probably hasn't been terribly well run over the last few years. It's certainly been underfunded by successive governments. And maybe I was naive, and maybe an awful lot of people were naive to think that if we actually got out of spending 39 billion a year, whatever it was, huge amounts of money we were told about, the NHS would be given more money. Actually, if you add up what was written on the side of the bus, it came out at £18 billion a year, and they've just given the NHS 2.8 billion. And we're supposed to feel grateful for that. I certainly wasn't taken in by what was on the bus, but it was the whole thing about we'll have more money to be able to give the NHS. A lot of my family are medics. A lot of them have been telling me that we need more money in the NHS. So you know that was influential. And there were other things apart from the NHS, things like security and scientific partnerships and cultural links. They're all going to be unchanged. Everything's going to be fine. I think the one that makes me laugh most of all was being told that it was going to be good for agriculture. Coming from North Dorset and having quite a lot of farming friends, I tell you that's not how they feel now. And the third reason, and some people will say it's the commonest reason why people like myself, and this is one of the reasons I did it, voted Leave. I wanted to give Cameron a kick up the backside. Yeah. I expect you all do as well, for lots of reasons, well, particularly now, looking back. Not because he was having a referendum, but because of everything else. Because of the sheer arrogance that Eton boys have that they can rule the country. Sadly, we're still seeing it, and I suspect we'll see it a little bit longer yet. I understand the frustrations that have been caused by the North-South divide. I understand the frustrations. I ran a manufacturing business for 14 years. I understand the frustrations of the way the industrial heartlands have been absolutely decimated and continue to be. People in the North particularly would resent the fact that everything is so London-centric. They're feeling disenfranchised. They, more than anybody, would want to give Cameron a kick up the backside. it was Sunderland, I think, that declared first in the referendum. Remember the picture of the woman up on somebody's shoulders shouting, "Hooray, we're going to leave." It's ironic, isn't it, that what Nissan have said this week, that they're going to be leaving Sunderland if it's a hard Brexit. So there we are. Now I just want to make one thing completely clear because it's really important to me: freedom of movement. I've always supported freedom of movement, and I believe that the majority of people who voted leave actually don't believe in changing anything as far as freedom of movement is concerned. I think it's wonderful that I go into a restaurant in London and a young man, a young woman serves me, and you ask them where they come from, and after that initial look of fear on their face that you're going to tell them to bugger off home, you then say to them, "Oh, do you know what, I went to Amsterdam last year, I think it's wonderful," and you get into a conversation and all the things about their families come out. It's great, I love that. I also love the fact that my children, and hopefully one day my grandchildren, can go and work in Frankfurt or in Paris and what have you without. And how stupid is it? How stupid is it that we are going to stop our kids going and living and working abroad in 27 countries, and all we're doing with the EU is stopping 27 countries coming to one country? I mean, it's suicide. It doesn't make any sense at all. So, why did I change my mind? I can't talk about the other 40-odd thousand that we know about. I can only talk about myself. And to do that, let me just tell you a little bit about myself, because that might hopefully put it in some sort of perspective. I'm a grandfather, I'm 70 years old. I had my first grandchild a year ago, I've got 2 more on the way. I ran, as I mentioned before, a manufacturing business for 40 years. I have a degree in art history and literature. I was a magistrate for quite a large number of years. I'm now a volunteer at Kingston Lacey at National Trust, often seeing people, Europeans coming in and spending a lot of time apologising for our government to them. I was on the board of the Environment Agency, I was a director of the Dorset Chamber of Commerce, I was on the board of the Bournemouth and Poole College, and I was the original founder and first chairman of the Dorset Association of School Governors. Now, why do I tell you all this? I'm not showing off. The reason I'm telling you is that hopefully, as a result of saying that, you will think, well, actually, he's quite intelligent. A reasonable chap, not the sort of person you'd expect to be voting leave. Well, there are 2 reasons actually why I'm telling you that. That's one of them. And the other one is that you should be concerned that I voted leave. You should be alarmed that I voted leave, because if people like I did, other intelligent people would have done as well. So, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm in Portugal. Actually, I was in the Azores, part of Portugal, at my sister-in-law and brother-in-law's house. I had a postal vote, and in fact, I've been selling my business in the same week I retired, the same week as the referendum. 3 o'clock in the morning, I crept downstairs, I turned on my tablet, and out loud I went, "Bloody hell." And I'm sure some of you did the same thing. I could not believe it. So much for the kick up the backside. Although I voted leave, I didn't believe that Remain would lose. Sorry about the double negative. I really didn't think that Remain would lose. And it took, I'd like to say weeks, but probably a few months before I really personally changed my mind completely. And why did I do that? Well, first of all, the lies. The lies that the Leave campaign told became evident very quickly. Especially there were two issues. One was obviously the NHS and how much money was going to be given to the NHS and all that sort of stuff. And the other one, the Irish border. Now, the Irish border was hardly mentioned during the campaigns. Now, of course, it's the big stumbling block. Theresa Villiers, somebody I have to say I have no time for, or maybe less. She said during the campaign, it is no less likely to be less open, this is the border, the border is no less likely to be less open after Brexit than it is today. If you work out what she's trying to say. I've already apologised for my double negative, I'm not apologising for hers. So that's the first one. The second reason was, I call it no friendly separation. Now, we were promised that there would be no problems with trade, there would be no problems with legal arrangements, security, scientific agreements, cultural links. Nonsense. All of that's nonsense. One of the first things that happened was the European Youth Orchestra moved from Britain. It's gone already. So many of the drug agencies, they're all going, if they haven't already gone. A lot of the cultural links have been broken, and then of course jobs. Remember Lord Digby Jones saying, not a single job would be lost as a result of Brexit. But try telling that to the people at Honda and some of the finance houses and the farmers who can't get people to come and work and what have you. It's complete nonsense. I mentioned agriculture earlier on, and friends of mine. The National Farmers Union have described the idea of a hard Brexit now as catastrophic. That's their word, catastrophic. 6 reasons they've given why it's catastrophic, and the agricultural industry affects all of us, because obviously we're talking foodstuffs. There'll be trade embargoes, there'll be export tariffs, there'll be increased food imports, there'll be a shortage of medicines for vets to use and shortage of fertilisers that are imported. There'll be cuts to organic exports because we'll have to reprove all over again that our organic standards match the EU. That will take a long time. And of course there'll be labour shortages. Well, I don't need to tell you all about the rise of the ERG and the Brexit Party pushing the Tories to the right. To me, it is absolutely horrifying. Over the years, I've got Conservative friends, people who I think are reasonably minded, who are concerned about people less well off than they are. They're tearing their hair out. And I'd just like to think that 1 or 2 more Tory MPs who are doing the same will actually be honest and start putting country before party in their own. And that includes my own MP, Simon Hoare. He was a Remainer to start with. He campaigned for Remain, and then he campaigned for Theresa May. And having voted 3 times for Theresa May's deal, he's now, he's supporting Boris Johnson. I'm not sure how much further to the right he's going to go. He keeps on putting tweets on about we need an agreement. But he's not showing any. To me, this whole idea of regaining sovereignty, which they talk about, is just an appalling act of self-sacrifice. So, as a father and a grandparent, I really do fear for the future now. As a Remainer now, I'm in a very privileged position of being able to talk to people who voted to leave as somebody who did the same thing. And the question that I always ask these people is, just tell me one thing, one advantage in leaving. And there's usually a pregnant pause, straight bananas or something, but we actually don't, there is no answer. There are no advantages. Since 1996, I think I'm right in saying there have been 14,500 pieces of legislation that have come from the EU. Out of 14,500, only 72 have not been enacted in this country. And when you read them, they should have been enacted because they're to do with people's working lives and drugs and various other things. 72 out of 14,500. We as a country have actually voted in favour of over 98% of the EU legislation. So what's the big problem? What is the deal? So, as a Remainer now, what do I and my fellow Remainer nows do? Well, like many of you, I write constantly to my MP. I don't bother with tweets or any of the stuff online. I actually write to him. Handwritten letters. Believe it or not, he actually replies to those occasionally. Sometimes it's just the usual standard Tory guff. But just sometimes it's a Dear Julian letter, which is good. I've got my own Twitter account. I may be old, but I've managed to get 1,500 followers myself. I've marched, and I marched with the whole of my family, including my grandson. At the big march, where we had over 1 million, attached to my grandson's pushchair was a large notice which said, "My first words were bollocks to Brexit." That photograph appeared on Twitter many times. We have many articles now as Remain Now people in the media. We've been on television, radio. Yesterday I had a long conversation with The Guardian. The Guardian are doing both an article and a film on the 19th about our actions and what we're doing. We've had conference stalls at the Liberal and Labour conferences, Liberal Democrat and Labour conferences. We've had meetings outside those conferences. I spoke at the Bournemouth one with Chucker, with 3 MEPs, including Green MEP and 2 Lib Dem MEPs, and Tom Brake was there as well. and they've been very successful. I mean, tonight I know of at least 3 other people who are addressing meetings like this as Remainer now, which is great. And perhaps most important, next week we're going to Brussels. Next week we have 10 of us going to Brussels. We have meetings with MEPs, with commissioners, and we're hoping to see Donald Tusk, we're hoping to see Michel Barnier. We've written to both of them, they both said if we can find time. And that'll be on Thursday the 17th. That, of course, is the day when the big EU meeting is going to be. So we're there right at the, right at the moment. We've got the national press following us there. We've got radio stations across Europe who are going to meet us there. It's going to be a very interesting and I hope very exciting time. We might even change the whole direction that we're going. Somehow I doubt it, but at least we're making our mark. Because it's important that they know there are people in this country who have changed their minds. I owe it to my children, I owe it to your children, and we all owe it to children in future generations. I think that what my generation did in voting and supporting the Leave campaign was absolutely appalling. I think we should be ashamed. And I don't mind admitting that I'm ashamed of the way I voted. Hopefully I'm trying to do something to rectify that. And I would say to any of you here who voted Leave, and I doubt if there are many, and if you know people who did, talk to them. Join me in the fight to get them to think about changing their mind. We need to, not just for our sake, but for the sake of our children. Thank you.